Welcome to Let's Talk Evolution, the podcast where real life experiences meets the complexities of today's tech industry. Each episode, we dive into a specific topic with thought leaders who know the systems, the structures, and the nuances that drive the industry. This series is all about unpacking the inner workings of tech and learning from the people who understand it best. I am Danelle from Evolution Recruitment Solutions, and today I am your host. In this episode, we're unpacking one of the biggest questions facing businesses today, and that's how do you actually get started with AI when you don't know how? From uncertainty to perceived risk to the sheer scale of change, many companies are eager to explore AI but is hesitant at the starting line. Joining us today is David Hardoon, a globally respected leader in data science and AI strategy. He is currently serving as the AI Enablement Global Head for Standard Chartered Bank. Thank you for coming on the show, David, and welcome. Before we dive in, could you give our listeners a quick introduction about yourself?
Sure. And first and foremost, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. I always like to kind of introduce myself as just a geek that has stumbled into a topic that, well, has always been fascinating and interesting for me. And I'm happy that the world has come to see my way. No, I joke. It is really something that's been interesting. So I've always been doing AI, and I'm not saying this as a cliche because, especially when it became a very hot topic, everyone's been doing AI. No, I've kind of went into the field in academia. I was very fascinated from an academic perspective, spent a decade, in fact, in academia, but then kind of slowly wandered into the other side of how effectively to bring it to fruition, how to deploy it, how to apply it in a way that truly results in operational value for an organization, for an individual, and so forth. And perhaps in short, I've had the pleasure of seeing things from different dimensions of the industry, software, services, consultancy. I worked in the regulator, end user, but it's always been anchored on AI, data. The two are synergistic. And as I mentioned earlier, how do you move things through and down the assembly line to productionalization?
Amazing. Perfect introduction. Thanks for that. I think you're the best person to address this particular topic. So let's just get into it. So first question. So many companies are eager to adopt AI, but often hesitant due to uncertainty, perceived risk, and not knowing where to begin. So from your experience, what mindset and approach should an organization adopt to effectively and responsibly integrate AI into their organizations?
Well, so we start with the easy questions. Perhaps if I may, in kind of pursuit of addressing your question, is I sometimes also get asked the question of what do you look in terms of characteristics of when you're hiring a person, let's say a data scientist, and usually the presumption is you're looking for so many years of building code, designing this, executing that, and while on the surface, true, that is correct, it is important. The other dimension of the skill sets and more perhaps mindset is, well, candidly, and it's a hard thing sometimes to quantify, but it's problem solving. It's ingenuity. It's the ability to respectfully challenge process. Why do I say that these things become really important? Is because what is AI actually? AI is not technology in the Puritan sense of how we know technology, like a phone, a car. I'm writing C++. AI is about knowledge. It's just that we use technology to uncover, discover, manage, and use that knowledge. So that means you have two sets of, it could be the same person, but you have two sets of skill sets. One is the technical competency of doing that. But then there's the other hand as well. What is the questions that I ask? Why am I doing this? How do I use this information? What is the process? You see, so it's a lot of kind of considerations for the purpose, the intent. For example, let's say you say to me, David, I want to have a better understanding of my listeners and what drives and so forth. And we use AI to uncover that information in a proactive manner. And let's just say, just for the sake of a Quarantarian example, it shows that in fact there's a shift in the audienceship and listenerships and area of interest, which is different from the plans that you've had in place. So what do? Do we say, oh, no, we're going to stick to what we're doing and how we're doing it? Or we're going to take that information and actually incorporate it in terms of how the organization adapts and how it changes. So it's really about the change mindset, like I said, respectful, challenging, review. And as a final point, perhaps, the most common question you would hear me ask, whether it's a technical session or a business session, is why? It really starts with it. Why are we doing this? Why are we trying to achieve that? Oh, we have this problem. Okay, why do we have this problem? That enables us to truly benefit from the world and create that change and adoption and operationalization of AI.
Amazing. Okay, yeah, moving on to the next question, and that is, what is one piece of advice you would give to someone or a company trying to break into AI today? I think especially given how broad and fast-moving the field has become, I think many people don't really know where to start, right?
Yeah, well, one piece of advice.
Maybe several pieces of advice if you have a couple of minutes.
But I would say I think the starting point is, it's not why you want to use AI. Because in fact, it's not about AI. Unless you're a research company or you're doing a technical development, AI is a means, it's not the end. So going back to what I was literally mentioned earlier is, why do you want to do this? Well, is it because you're trying to improve on business process efficiency? Is it because you believe there's untapped opportunities? Is it because of customer engagement? Is it because you have 20% improvement in terms of margin? And it's very critical to understand what is it that we're trying to achieve. Now, whether AI can help in that, I actually would say that is secondary. The first is, let's anchor in what's important to the business, number one. Then as a second step is, okay, now that we know it's important, so let's say increasing listenership or improving the margin by 20% or increasing efficiency, or I have this massive problem. Now we solution for it. And I guarantee you is that you will find AI will make an appearance in that solutioning. But what's important about that is that you have a proper anchor point in terms of, I have a problem or I have an opportunity, how do I address it? Versus, a solution looking for a problem. Now, some may say, oh, but David, but then we're not maximizing on the possibilities of AI or the so-called art of the possible. You see, I probably, obviously, our audience cannot see, but I'm kind of grinning cheek to cheek here. Yes, you're right. But you need to start somewhere. Start with something simple, start with something concrete, even if it's not as wazzle and dazzle, because at the very least, it proves the pudding. It demonstrates the viability to then go and have that higher appetite of saying, we're going to try something that we don't know. We don't know if it's going to work or even relevant at all.
Okay, and I think this is a separate question, but I think we're speaking about it just now. I think a lot of companies are not really sure where to build things in-house, right? And what do you have advice for them if they're like a smaller team, maybe not as big as Stanchart, of course, maybe like a scale-up or a startup? What do you have advice to them if they are thinking of building it in-house or not?
Every organization, okay, first and foremost, I'd say contextualize it to your organization. It both in terms of size, both in terms of capabilities. Like if it's let's say a small organization of 10 people, you're not going to build a whole army of technical folks. So number one, it starts with depends. Number two, and this is more of a personal perspective, is, I was mentioning it earlier when we were having a conversation, is a triple B strategy, build, buy, borrow. My personal view is if it's a cup and I just want to drink a cup of tea or a cup of coffee and it's the right size, approximately the right size, it can handle the hot liquid, why would I want to reinvent a cup? It just doesn't make sense. And that you find in this field of AI, yes, there are many things which you may need to do yourself because it is highly specific and highly contextualized to you. So there just isn't that right cup. But in the others, there's a whole bunch of them which, you know what, it's good enough. It's good enough. It's right. And then it's really down to just being a commercial conversation. That's my personal view, because I much rather focus, as we kind of see from the theme, on the productionalization. It's about getting it into the hands of the users, or getting into the operationalizations of the business to benefit and achieve those values, rather than proving that I can code. It's okay. We don't need to prove that.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, I think we were talking about how it's fast moving in AI. I think we're going to move to our last question, which is more on trends, right? So, as someone who's, active in this particular field, I mean, how do you see AI transforming the financial industry, and both in the near term and the long term?
Okay, so on the near term is you are seeing, and it's almost there is no choice. It's like the value from the whole gen revolution, and how we're let me put it this way, is how we're interacting with data. The challenge with AI previously is, because it can do everything and all that, is that it's dependent on your imagination. And sometimes, look, it's very difficult to imagine something that if you've never seen a plane before, and I tell you, imagine the ability of flying with another group of people from one place to another, it may be a bit difficult for some folks. So that was a bit the same issue with AI. Having the ability to now create these applications when you can literally say, imagine a picture of us running in the garden, and it will do it. And you're like, whoa, what can it be done? It can achieve that. Or to search information, to help summary. That part of the imagination is kind of taken away. So immediate is, we're now thinking about, how do we coordinate into the organization? How do we now directly help it in helping us in from mundane tasks to more complex tasks that we need today? That is then facilitating a set of a whole new aspects of services. In my view, in the world specifically of financial services, it's making banking invisible. I mean, it's been an ongoing debate about branches and all that, but as a consumer, as an end user, especially on retail, is I don't want to talk to a bank. I want to hit the services coming from the bank. I want to be able to, have my dream house because I want to build and establish or expand a family. You see, so it's about, how do we now make the financing engine, as with governance and obviously with controls, but as seamless as possible, as pleasant as possible, and then sometimes, as I like to say, as delightful as possible.
And that's a wrap for this episode of Let's Talk Evolution. A huge thank you to our guest, David Hardoon, for sharing his insights on what it really takes to adopt AI with confidence, clarity, and responsibility. If you enjoyed this conversation, be sure to stay tuned, as we've got more conversations coming your way with the people shaping the future of tech from the inside out. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Danelle from Evolution, and I hope to see you on our next episode.